It's deja vu as the Cats belt us in an opening quarter and set up a comfortable win. This is the Sash, definitely not the official podcast of the Essendon Football Club. I'm your host, Rob, here with you as always. And joining me in studio is Jesse. Hello, mate. Yeah, it's about right, isn't it?
Yeah.
I actually considered today, I was like, what if I went a bit avant-garde and I just put up an hour of just no talking? And it's just like me just like this, head in my hands.
I was going to intro myself as just, but I forgot it's a podcast and not many people would have heard that.
Yeah. Most people are listening, although hello to everyone who's on YouTube. But yes, most people are listening. So you do need to paint the picture verbally with audio. Did you watch any of the Wimbledon on the weekend or
No.
tour?
I was
Anything other than footy? Did you watch it? No.
Far removed from sport this weekend. After that, I decided to dedicate other areas of my life to other things. So,
Fair enough, yeah. Yeah, I mowed the lawn on Sunday. I cleaned up all this stuff at the back of my house that I've been meaning to do for ages. And I was just like, yeah, I'm not going to watch the Sunday footy show like I usually do. I'm just going to do anything else.
Yeah, I was cracking into a bit of Diablo 4, Demon Souls.
Nice.
Just nerding it out whilst the better halves in Europe,
Nice.
Just in holiday mode at the moment. So the holiday for me and her comes to an end. So she's coming back, picking up from the airport on Friday. And then we go again against the Dogs. And then we go again.
That is the good thing at the Friday night is that we have a short time to hopefully redeem ourselves or potentially make us feel any worse. Yeah, often on a Monday, I'll consume a lot of footy content, whether it's radio or newspapers or the AFL website. Zero.
Yeah, it's been a while since.
I actually did a lot of work on a Monday, which is rare for me. Usually I'm just consuming footy. Sent a few emails. I'm like, no, I'm actually working really hard and I got a lot done.
Just a nice tap on the shoulder from the footy gods to us Essendon supporters. Just don't get too ahead of yourself, right?
Yeah, and that was it. I know we spoke about it on Thursday, and I mean, you were being a bit parochial about. I was top four. Yeah, top four. I
was lit off.
Yeah,
I got tapped on the shoulder by God, the footy gods for sure.
Yep, time to go get the drill and officially screw that lid back in, nice and tight. Extra big bolts, extra strong.
It's super glued at this stage.
Yeah, it's a long way from being off. I guess we can talk about the game. I mean, what do you say, to be honest? I mean, they're obviously our bogey side at the moment, and yes, they're the reigning premiers and all this other stuff, but they're bigger than us, they're stronger than us, they're tougher, they're more experienced, they're fitter, they play better footy, they are just better than everything. Yeah. And the thing that I hated at this result the most is that last week, talking about finals and whatever else, I was like, I reckon we can have a crack at anyone in the bottom half of the eight. Absolutely. I reckon we have a crack at anyone. On a day we can win. Now, like all the other years that we've fallen into the eight and get smashed round one, if we play Geelong, I have zero confidence. And there might be some listeners and viewers who will be like, oh, we could do. No, zero. They will smash us and we'll get embarrassed and it'll be another fucking year. That's how I feel about this. And I'm very worried now coming into finals where I was actually kind of like, yeah, this could be fun. Hopefully get a good result. And hopefully we still do. But I don't know. It's got this Essendon feel about it. And whilst I'm really flat, I'm also really angry at the same time.
Yeah. I mean, it's fair enough to feel that way. It was a pretty pathetic first quarter. Really, one side came out to play. The other didn't. And it's really disappointing that in areas of the game where you can have an influence, which is being contested and putting your head over the football, it's not necessarily that Geelong were any their intent for the football was they just had so much more intent for the footy than we did. And after a performance earlier in the year where the first quarter was really the sticking point to their win, it was really just the same performance. Looking at the first quarter in particular, which is really where the game is won and lost, what stood out to me wasn't necessarily the contest work though in the middle, it appeared there was this contagious lack of composure that was, I don't know where it started, but even players like Merritt and good users in our team were turning the ball over. But it was very much, erring on where we've been at over the past couple of years under Rutten, where it was really kick hack, no composure. And a lot of the time, the players weren't under significant pressure where they had to get that release kick. And that was the key difference. We would get the ball, we would bomb it long, it would go straight to, and hats off to their defense. Like Henry in that first quarter was unbelievable. Every single time they kicked the ball to Langford, he absolutely destroyed Langford. And in all fairness to him, Langford, we've been speaking about as potentially, at least all-Australian squad, and he absolutely devoured him.
Yeah.
Every time we kicked it into the defence, they just outworked our forwards, and it was pathetic. I don't necessarily think the kicking was to their advantage by any means, but we looked really soft in the air. Peter Wright got outmarked by Tom de Koning really easily. Wiedemann got outmarked. And then on the other side, it was the complete opposite. They were going in with precision. Even when they weren't going in with precision, as soon as our defenders got the ball, I actually racked it up. 4 out of the 5, or I think 5 out of the 7 goals they kicked in the first quarter were directly from our defenders turning over the ball inside our forward 50. And in fairness to Geelong, they set up that ground amazingly. Their zone defense was one of the most compressing zone defenses that I've seen, and they defended the corridor. They did their homework. Unfortunately for Brad, Chris has got the wood on him, and at this stage, as much as I love Brad, he's got the runs on the board, Chris, and it was a bit of a masterclass from Chris. Every time we tried kicking into the corridor, we turned it over, and it resulted in a score of some description.
So they scored 103 points from turnover.
103 was it?
Yeah.
Oh my Lord.
Probably a record.
Seriously.
I mean, at least against us this season. And yeah, I think they were saying on the telecast that, Chris has got like an 85% win rate down there, which is berserk. It is berserk. And
it's a shit ground. It should not be allowed to be played at AFL level. Have you seen the dimensions of that ground? It is ridiculous.
Yeah,
that AFL's allowed to be played there.
Yeah, you would have thought that with like redeveloping a stand, they might change it up a bit. But anyway, that's by the by. Because they did the same thing to us at the G this year and last year. So I asked the question how much of this is a mental thing, particularly this week, because the last 3 first quarters against Geelong, we've conceded 7 goals, 6 goals, and then 7 goals. They could have kicked 8 or 9, maybe even 10, because they missed a few. And
they easily could have kicked 8 or 9.
And coming into the game, everyone was saying, Essendon people were saying, we just got to not do the same thing we've done and get shocked in the first quarter. And that's it. We get totally shocked. And I wonder if it's a mental thing. And yes, we are a less experienced team than them, but you're talking about guys who expect to be better and better users. Like, I'll give you some of the kicking efficiency through the game for some players. And look, there's some very young players in here, so I understand that. But so Hobbs 33%, Sam Durham 37%, Guelphy in a string of 40, Martin 42, Merritt 46%, unheard of. He got shut out of the game by them.
For sure.
Perkins 46%, Brian, he's a ruckman, so you can maybe excuse a little bit. Caldwell 50, Parrish 50, and then McGrath 60, and then it kind of goes on from there. But there's a few guys there, particularly who are midfield group players who you need to be better, and they just weren't. And as soon as they kicked that 4th or even 5th goal, like I felt watching it, and you'd look around, you could see Heppel screaming and pointing at people, and they're all sort of like they were
lost.
They got totally shocked. And
bamboozled.
Back to my rant to start the show, if we play that team in round 1 of the finals, our team are going to shit themselves. They're all going to be fearful of this side. And the comp's on notice. Don't get me wrong. The competition is on notice for how Geelong played in the weekend. They are absolutely in this competition at the moment. They should finish 5th and, potentially go on pretty deep from there. But I don't think that I just don't think we can go with at the moment. And the blessing is that a few of these guys will hopefully retire in the next couple of years, and then they'll be a different team. But from forwards to mids to backs, we just can't hack the way that those guys play. And they rest like two of their pretty good players. Like Zach Tui didn't play. I mean, they didn't really need Radicalea, and people would argue maybe they're better without him. But like Mark Blitzarves must look at the Essendon fixture every season, go, great.
Here we go.
These guys can't touch me. I'm a absolute freak, 190 whatever centimeters, rover, and I'm just going to push these guys around. Like I consider, Parrish and Caldwell to be tough players. Not when they play Geelong. They can't get near him.
Yeah.
And I don't know what it is. Like, are these guys just bigger and stronger and more experienced, or is there something mental about the way that our last losses against them have gone? Because
it's all three.
We were rattled. Absolutely rattled.
It's all three, I would say. I mean, I don't know if you have experience with this, but I certainly know that the old Zavs are well known for just bullying teams. Like, we go through seasons every year, possibly not losing a game. And there are just some teams, for instance, Ajax, that haven't beaten us for 7 years.
Yeah.
And there is a bit of a psychology behind it. It's not something, that will ever last forever, but certainly they're bigger. Certainly they're stronger. Certainly they're more experienced. And just in general, they were coached better on the day than we were. One thing that is now becoming a major concern of mine is just how when the floodgates open, they open and for a while against us. And when the gates open, it is a flood. Yeah. Like, it is Noah's Ark. The earth is fully flooded with water. Like, there's nothing.
It's a tsunami.
Yeah, there's nothing stopping this wave. And I know that we're not the finished product. That's totally fine. I'm not expecting us to, be competitive against the best teams all the time. But what does concern me is a loss like that. And it really does just pinpoint how when a team, that was a finals performance from Geelong. It really was. I think it's unlucky that we've probably played them, and the 2 times we've played them, it's probably the best football they've played all year against us, which probably does play on that hoodoo aspect. They have their tails up against us. We are in defensive mode against them. But just generally, if you look at the way that Geelong gave us no space in the corridor, what concerns me is how we gave them so much space in the corridor all day. And I'm not sure what it is, but I don't think as a team this year defensively we've really defended the corridor very well. And I don't know what it is. Maybe we are playing high transition football and we are taking that risk. What I will say is a positive though, I would much prefer, as much as it stinks on the scoreboard, to see us play a ball that is a 50-50 when our tails are down, such as what we did numerous times throughout the game, doing that short 45 kick, taking the game on instead of bombing it down the line. And unfortunately, it cost us over the weekend, but I much prefer the intent of the players to try and be creative than where we were at from last year. But the issue is, though, that if you don't execute with your skills against a really good AFL team, you get put to the sword.
Yeah, and that's it. They are, they are the reigning premiers at the end of the day. We do have to remember that. And like I said, I think a lot of people have been put on notice this week. And, in the grand scheme of things, we've gone from being a relatively uncompetitive side last year to a very competitive side this year. We're not at the top end yet, but we are a very competitive team. And, we've seen this year that on our day that, the top 2 sides, we could have absolutely beat them. Absolutely. But then we've just kind of got this, bogey that we've got to deal with. And as any young side do as they grow and ideally become a good team, is that they have to, vanquish these demons. And we got the monkey off the back with Richmond. It was by the finest of margins, but we did it. And even though that we haven't got a 15-year stretch with this team, because we beat them 4 or 5 years ago, I think. There is a bit of a hoodoo with them.
Yeah.
And annoyingly, the team we're playing Friday night, we've also kind of got a bit of a hoodoo with. We kind of got that one game where Peter dominated and they had all his players injured, but
they match up well against us in the midfield.
We can leave the Bulldogs chat for a little moment, but the Dogs have got some big wins on us. Finals and that one where they kicked 21 goals in a row or something. So there is some mental stuff here with Geelong. So. And it just sucks because, we're all up and about and we've been lauding how great everything's been this season, and then you just get one of these whacks and you just kind of get cut back down to size.
And it was really impactful on percentage. That hurt massive. What did we drop? 7 or 8% that game?
Yeah, I think it was less, 7 or 6 potentially. So, we're just in 8th at the moment on 101%. I think we're on 107 something going into it. Obviously, with teams like Carlton and Geelong, percentage won't come into it unless, of course, we do have a draw. But it just means with these teams like St Kilda, the Bulldogs and the Giants that percentage is going to be the factor. And potentially at the end of the season, with the way things go, it may be the difference between playing this team again or playing someone else or not playing finals at all. And it does hurt having these big losses because we kind of haven't had any too bad this season. Like I've had a couple of high 30s and 40s, but that happens. But yeah, when 10 goals plus, it's embarrassing.
Yeah,
it really is. And I feel for everyone who made the trek down there. There weren't many people, but gee, that's
grim.
That's a long V line or drive home.
I would like to see the AFL fixture us to play at Marvel next year against Geelong. That is our home ground. That's where we play our best football. Absolutely no doubt. So if they get the fixturing to be able to play us on their home ground, I just don't see why it's fair that we play them on neutral territory for the country round game.
Well, I think I think we split our home games now. I think that's how they view it, and that's how the club kind of view it. But
it's not the point, though. The point is they have this unbelievable home ground advantage. And then we play them, they play just as many games at the G as we do. So it's just as much of a home ground for them as it is for us.
It's a fair point. Yeah, it's a fair point. I'm not entirely sure what the numbers are.
There's no bigger advantage that a team has in the AFL than playing down at Cardinia Park than Geelong.
It's incredible.
What have we played? One game there in the last 25 years.
Yeah, exactly.
We've hardly played there. Not a single player on the ground. Bar a few.
When we played the Gold Coast there 2 years ago, but it was COVID.
But you're not playing Geelong there.
You're not playing Geelong.
There's a big difference. They train that ground. They know the dimensions. It's like playing how I would feel playing a team in the Champions League playing in their home country. It's a similar type of advantage that you get. Not many teams go over and try and get a win over there. You split the points at the best of times when you're playing away from home in a Champions League game.
Park the bus, go for the draw.
Correct.
And look, I guess Cats fan would argue that they don't get to play finals there, and that's kind of the trade-off that they get. But yeah, look, it's obviously the advantage you get having a home stadium. They've got arguably, I think, the best deal in the comp is because they don't have to travel interstate to play their home games. You know what I mean? But I guess the trade-off is that they never get to play finals there. So
yeah,
that's what it is. Who else have I got?
Do you think that would change if once they finish their stadium?
Maybe. Depends if they play. If they're playing an interstate club, I could see that happening. I think that's pretty fair.
Yeah,
but
Victorian clubs are pretty different.
Just won't. The other thing that shits me as well is that we're playing down there, but Collingwood haven't yet.
Yeah,
I think I send those fucks down there.
Please.
Yeah, exactly. They're due for one. Hopefully next year they get sent down there because, if we have to now, and it's fair that everyone does. I understand we haven't for a long time. I got a lot of Melbourne mates who are like, "Oh, good luck. It's fucking shit. You're gonna get smashed. We do every time we go down there." And I was like, yeah, all right. They're talking.
Do they actually, though, get smashed every time they go down there?
Man, everyone gets smashed when they go down there.
Well, that's all right. That makes me feel
everyone gets smashed. It's 85% win. Everyone gets smashed in there. And I had a good chat with a mate coming into the game who goes to the D's. He said, mate, there's nothing worse than coming home from that ground after you've lost. Nothing worse. And they've seen some diabolical days and nights down there.
You just don't go. That's the real trick.
That's the trick. You don't watch the game, which is what some people I know definitely did on Saturday night. Who gets a positive shout out? I reckon Nick Bryan had a fair crack. And I like the kid. I mean, we would have loved to have had the physicality of a Phillips or a Draper when the going was tough, but Nick Bryan will be hopefully at Essendon, but Nick Bryan will be a regular AFL ruckman at some point in his career. The kid's got enough, and I think he'll go pretty far. And look, he kept trying. Obviously, it wasn't going our way, but yeah, I like him.
Yeah,
I like him a lot.
Yeah, it was good. It's good to hear Scotty also really only mentioning him as probably the player that stood out, which is a massive compliment given it's, your first full game as the number one ruck and the coach in the press conference in an 85-point loss or whatever it was that it worked out to be. 77 was it in the end? Actually mentions you as being a standout over the night. Good to see. Yeah, I'm not sure what the future looks like for him either. I just don't really know what capacity he has to play second fiddle. I feel like he's probably someone more so that would benefit in, that number one role at a club. So we'll see. I mean, we're such a huge club that, at his age, I don't necessarily think there's much concern at the moment as to his, I guess, willingness to leave. But
depends at the suitors, if the money comes and, you
and apparently they're wanted this year, Ruckman. It's a bit of a...
Yeah. And I mean, it is kind of the discussion of the week. Like, I'm not sure if you watch Melbourne, Brisbane, but, the discussion sort of is around, there's 2 rucks better than one. Gordon was so amazing, but they didn't have Grundy playing. So that's just the way, like, it is funny with that position. Like, there's always fluctuations with one team has 2 and it works really well, and then one team does it with 1. It's like, oh no, 1's the way to go, and there's just a lot of variables to it. But I did like the way he had a crack. I thought Hobbsy had a crack as well. He obviously butchered it, but
always does.
Always had a crack as well, and again, also butchered the ball. But I thought Archie Perkins had a red hot crack. Like he had the most tackles for the game, or at least for an Essendon player did.
He actually took down Blitzarves, which was nice.
Yeah, so
pile drived him.
Wait, did he have the most? Hold on. What bloody stat was I just looking here? Maybe he didn't have the most. Apologies. That's incorrect. But no, I like the fact that he had a crack, and I think he's had a couple of really good games this season where he's played on some very competent midfielders, whether it be Dawson or Cripps. This was another chance like that where he spent a fair bit of time going head-to-head with Dangerfield, and we didn't get the result.
But Danger had 19.
Yeah, still. But I just think...
Which is not bad.
But I think long-term, the benefits of him going up against some of the best players in the competition, I think is really good. Even though, he wasn't as effective as he was before. Parrish did have the most tackles for Essendon. I don't know what
I will say, the one thing that I did notice...
it was turnovers. He had the most turnovers. There we go. That's what it was.
That makes sense.
He had turnovers. He was butchering it, and he was doing what Ian McGrath used to do when we were getting destroyed, which is he'd win it and he would just launch it forward. And I feel like that is a result of a mental pressure thing.
Yeah, but everyone was doing that.
Exactly.
It wasn't just
everyone was doing it. It's not a lack of skill or anything like that, but I think it's just being in the heat of the moment and copying that pressure and just going, I just got to get it forward, which you were trying to do. But the problem is that particularly from quarter time, we had an extra minute of stoppage. When there's an extra minute of stoppage, they have a loose back. You're never going to win it when you got Tom Stewart as the loose back. Yeah. And that's just what happened. So, look, I think he'll learn from it. And it's good for him to have that opportunity as well.
What he does offer us, though, is aerial presence. And there was a few times balls got kicked into a position where Danger otherwise normally would have marked or another player. And he just added that level of physicality to be able to spoil the ball, which is nice because it's not something that we've really had airily, that presence within our midfield group. So obviously there's, some really solid building blocks there, which will help us as a team. So yeah, onwards and upwards for Arch.
Yeah. So it's week 7 or 8 that Sam hasn't kicked a goal. I wouldn't say I was defending him on Thursday night, saying that, was it Thursday or Monday? I can't remember which show it was. Sorry. But I was saying, look, he won't get dropped because of, actually it was last Monday. I was like, he's not going to get dropped because of the availability of our ruck stocks. I've seen enough now that I would rather play Phillips and Bryan than play Sam Wiedemann. I'm sorry. I've seen enough now. And I've been probably one of the latter people to fall, because a lot of people have been saying it for many weeks, and regular listeners to this page and friends of mine have been like, mate, we got to drop him. And I'm like, no. And I've defended him for a while, but I've seen enough. And whether it's in the VFL or, I don't know, I mean, they put him back towards the end, but I didn't think that was very good either. But yeah, I think he's just completely lost any sort of sense of touch and confidence that he might have had earlier in the year. And I'd rather see us do something else. I'd rather see us play 2 ruckmans or play a more mobile forward line because, yeah, he's just not offering enough.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. Does it serve a purpose to drop a guy who's lacking confidence to gain confidence in the VFL, or does it kill his confidence even more when you drop him to that level? Because it's almost sort of that inevitable tap on the shoulder that he's been waiting for over the past 4 or 5 weeks to be told that he's not available, or he's not going to play this week. I do think, though, based on our forward line, when there are still elements to Peter's game because he's a bit off, where he's not demanding that presence. He's not crashing packs as much as he used to, and that's completely fair enough. I would love to see someone in there, maybe like a Voss, that can give us that contested element to our forward line, because at times we look weak as piss in our forward line, like really weak. You've got 2 giants that almost seem like they could get pushed over by a small breeze at times. And Voss is obviously not that. I feel like Voss has been a bit quiet over the past few weeks, but I feel like he's the type of player, based on what I saw in the 1.5 quarters that he played against Gold Coast, which is not a whole lot to go off, but he stood up and he played really good football. And I feel like he could be one of those types of players that really relishes at a higher level and adds us just a bit of a different dynamic. We look good as a smaller forward line. If we had 3 mobile, tall-ish, small forwards, that's pretty concerning for a lot of teams defensively.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess there's been probably questions around Paco as well, because he's been pretty quiet and not what we expect from him. And when he's waddling around like that, you're always like, what injury is he carrying?
Yeah.
And look, it's a shame that Jaden Hunter guy got injured straight away, because I reckon he might have been given an opportunity, to be honest. And so back to your first point about the confidence thing of dropping someone, I feel like at some point in this 8 weeks stretch or 7 weeks, whatever it's been, that there might have been that conversation maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago about, no, we'll back you in. But now you've had that opportunity to be backed in. And this is going to be a really fascinating week for selection, because we haven't had much of a reason to make a lot of changes. After a loss like that, you have to make a lot of changes. And I think this is where we're really going to see what kind of person Brad and the match committee are prepared to be, because
can they make the tough decisions that they said that they were going to make after this review happened? And
because if you look at the guys who are currently in the AFL versus VFL, all of our absolute youngest guys are all playing in the VFL. I think Hobbs is probably the youngest in the AFL side, if I'm correct. So, we're not like this absolute baby team with a whole bunch of 19-year-olds running around. Like, there's still a few experienced heads getting around that senior side. So it'll be interesting to see what we do, because we may be forced with, like, say, an injury through potentially Laverty, depending on how he comes up. But, I mean, a 77-point loss, if you're not making 2 or 3 changes, like, that's a bit sus. Phillips will come in after his suspension.
Yeah.
I'd be potentially looking to make a move for the midfield. I'd be maybe a move in the forward line and even someone in the back line as well. I think you got to look around and see what your options are, because there are guys who, although were good a couple of weeks ago in Adelaide, who were pretty poor against Geelong, and this is a ruthless industry.
There were some really poor efforts defensively in that first quarter. In particular, there was one circumstance where we turned the ball over. We're probably Geelong had the ball 20 metres from the 50 arc, and Tom Hawkins was standing in between 2 Essendon defenders that were standing probably about 2 or 3 metres off him, one of them being Zerk Thatcher, and I can't remember the other player. And Hawkins quite literally just looked up, ran 4 steps, they kicked it to him, and Zerk Thatcher was just looking over his shoulders, had no idea where he was.
Yeah.
One thing that concerns me is that if you're a defender and you've been towed up by Tom Hawkins, how are you not wearing him like a leather jacket.
Yeah.
How are you not all over him in a situation like that? And look, I know that you're going to make mistakes, and I think that was emblematic. Everyone was just all over the place. We were a bit shocked. But I do agree with you. I feel like Kane Baldwin was massive on Sunday in the VFL. He was huge. He had another 25 or 26 disposals. He was an absolute chief with his ball delivery. He commanded that position. And I did see that they took Cox off. And I think it's around the same time that Laverty got injured. Sorry, not around the same time, but in precaution, I think, as a result of the Laverty situation. I would be so disappointed if they picked Cox over Laverty. If anything, what I would do is drop Wiedemann and play Cox at centre half forward, and I would play Baldwin in Laverty's position.
Yes.
Play Cox up forward. Yeah. Why not?
Yeah. Look, we'll chat to Paul later about the VFL, but yeah, I think he's potentially one who's going to be coming in, and I really didn't know where we're going to see him this year, particularly after that long injury layup. But I reckon if they're pulling someone off at half time,
it's looking likely.
Unless, of course, it's another bloody stress fracture to his back that we don't know about. Hopefully not. Yeah, I think he may come in and he may offer something new, because we have to try it. You have to try it after a result like that. Like Tom Hawkins had 8 marks inside 50. Yeah, 8 marks. Like,
their ball use was incredible, though.
Exactly, and it was. And like, there were people on social media being like, if we had a bit better defender, we'd just get it. I'm like, yeah, maybe there'll be a few one-on-ones that someone else may have beaten Hawkins in. But, when Brian Messi Myers is just putting it down someone's throat, you can't. Not much you can do.
No.
But
we're crying out for good ball use in those situations.
To get out of defence,
get out of defence. We're so reliant on Ridley. Yeah. So very reliant, and you could definitely tell that Rids was hampered playing that game. I don't know whether it was the right call or not, but he was not gliding across the deck as he would normally. I mean, if you've got bone bruising, it's one of the 100%. Shittest injuries that you can have. It lasts for so long, bone bruising. Laverty doesn't offer us really a whole lot. Heppel, unfortunately, doesn't offer us a whole lot with his kicking, I'm saying. McGrath at the best of times is 50-50. And
when he gets running,
he's good, but he's still prone to turning it over. And, still young, whatever. Jake Kelly definitely doesn't offer us anything. Zerk Thatcher doesn't. So it's really Ridley. So if you're looking at bringing a replacement in, I'm not trusting Nick Cox with his ball use. Absolutely no way. No. Kane Baldwin his ball use was elite in those games that he played for us.
I think Laverty's can be pretty good at times.
It's all right.
I wouldn't say
not creative. I wouldn't say with his ball use though.
Yeah, but I think it's also like Ridley's elite. So we have to factor in. Ridley is, like, I would argue, one of the best kicks in the game. I would say he's up there, particularly for defenders. Totally with you though that I think Kelly is. I was about to say he's reliable. I think he's reliable defending, but I think he lets us down completely with ball in hand. Like, I think it was one where he got running with the ball, and then just, because like he only has one side, and he just got it, and luckily got to someone, but just didn't look right. You could see he was struggling. So, I think we need to put guys in there who can use the ball. We need to give people opportunities. If you're not giving people opportunities after a loss like this, then what are you doing? So I'm Kane in. I'm big on Kane. I've been big on Kane for a long time, and I think we're a very pro Kane pod.
Huge.
Until he gets in the team and has 5 bad games, and then we'll Kane out. But that's just
it won't happen though. He's actually looking so good this year. He's looking amazing.
Yeah, I think he could be a star of the future. Maybe one day old Kane. It's a pretty.
I don't know if Brad likes him though.
Rags to riches story. Yeah, but like Paul said it before on the show that he, the way he's sort of viewed, because he's similar size and does similar things to Laverty, that it's hard for them to play two of the same, and he doesn't have the ability to run with your big aerobic forwards like Zerk Thatcher can. Yeah. But he may be better suited to, someone like Hawkins. But not many people are suited to someone like him, which is the same conversation we had last time they smashed us. So, yeah, I don't know. It's all fucked. It's just
it's not that bad.
It's not that bad. Right. It's not that bad.
Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. It's all right.
I've thrown the bath out the window, mate. Don't worry. Don't worry. Yeah, so Dogs on the weekend, on Friday. So we've won one of the last 9 against them.
Shit.
As I mentioned earlier, that includes the 21 goals in a row game. That was a fantastic night. Shout out to my mate Forbesy. And the elimination final loss in Tassie, which was obviously a pretty bleak one as well. And, this has been our crunch period. These 3 games, we were awesome against Adelaide. We were deplorable against Geelong. And now it kind of comes down to this. And this
average against Freo as well.
Yeah, average against Freo. But it was this block of 3 games, the 50-50 games against the sides who were in and around us on the ladder. And, it's where you get to really see where you are. And, thankfully we do have some easier games coming up. So if we lose on the weekend, we probably still can make finals.
But do you want to play finals if you lose on the weekend to the Dogs?
If we go down in an absolute thriller and it's really close, when you go down, within a goal or so, then you'd be like, all right, we can get them.
Be glad to see that. I don't think I've ever seen that. I've only seen the 10 goalers.
Yeah, but I'd be like, all right, we can get them in a final. But if we go down in a 30+ resounding win, you sit there and go, let's finish 9th. Yeah. I don't want to go through this again and lose another final.
I agree.
So that's where it is. And it's huge night, Friday night footy, Marvel Stadium. Luckily,
Ticket Blaster?
Best seats.
Oh, in the house.
Best seats. So, Prem level seating, Marvel, Medallion Club. It's probably going to be a sellout if it's not already.
For sure.
I had a few people already hit up the page asking me for the link to upgrade their tickets for this one. So,
get in.
Get in
whilst they're hot.
And look, we've got a run of great games coming up at Marvel, Sydney, West Coast and North. So, good chance to see some wins and, upgrade your seat. If you're not a member, if you are a member, obviously upgrade your seat. Sit somewhere good. Go have a dart on the balcony with Mert. Even though Mert doesn't smoke, we can go out there and have a dart.
Yep. Good pizzas up there as well.
Very good pizzas.
Really good.
Good pizzas. Very good pizzas.
Yeah.
Definitely needed a pizza on Saturday night. Luckily, Ticket Blaster aren't at GMHBA. I mean, they might be, but
did you eat your mental health, anxiety and stresses away on Saturday after that loss?
Yeah, I think I've been in it for the last 48 hours, to be honest. So thank you to the lovely people at Ticket Blaster. They do a great job. Anything else you want to say on this game before we go to some hot takes? Because I've kind of got all my anger and disappointment out, I think. Because it's not one of those games where you really want to sit there and be like, oh, there was that moment in the third quarter where this happened. Because from quarter time, I checked out.
Yeah,
I think a lot of people turned off.
Enough.
So, is there anything else you want to add? Good or bad?
Probably just to say to not get too disheartened by the performance. Geelong, as I said, they have clearly been streets above and better than any other team that we've versed this year. They're the reigning premiers from last year. The Hoodoo exists because as an establishment, they've been in the top 4 for the past 10 or 15 years as a football club almost every year.
Yeah.
So don't overthink it too much. I think the body of work that we've put together, the fact that we even considered to be a chance to win at Cardinia Park from where we were last year in the ladder is a massive step up, particularly with the list profile that we have, with the deficiencies as to where we're at as a football club from a list point of view. Brad's done a great job. We'll beat those bloody Cats one day. So just keep your head up there, and you never know. It could be in September that we stick it to them, just like what Carlton did to us in 99. They absolutely smashed us twice throughout the year, and then they beat us in the preliminary final.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, we smashed them in the season. Didn't get the one that mattered.
Could happen.
And I did look, as I did say earlier, yes, we've gone from being an uncompetitive side last year to a very competitive side, but yeah, it's just nights like this where you start to question everything.
You do. You really do.
And you really do. And you sit there and you look at the moon and you cry and you think about what could be if you went for a team that was good. But, we're not there yet.
Looking at the moon.
Yeah.
Coach me, Brady.
Yeah. Ow! Yeah, that's me. Let's get to some hot takes. Thank you, everyone who sent these through. Of course, you can find the link on our social media if you want to send them through in the future. But thank you to everyone who did. I'm very impressed by people for not getting too rude with these. I thought they're all very eloquently put. I'm quite happy with them. A bit of mild swearing, though, so a warning for everyone. Let's start with Jai. Thank you, Jai.
All right, so fellas, I am recording this as of 3/4 time, and we're down by 69 points. Nice. But what I've got to say is Sam Wiedemann must have Brad Scott's sex tape or something. Because how the fuck he is still getting a game, I've got no goddamn clue. Yes, he kicked a bag against them last time, but we've seen for like the last few weeks now, he's got no fucking clue what he's doing. The amount of uncontested drop marks and fumbles tonight, it's just, no. I've had enough. I think we've all had enough of this. It's time for Paddy Voss to come in. Come on, Brad. Just make the call, please. All right. Cheers, fellas.
Yeah. I think Jice speaks for a lot of people on social media who some have been going over the top, but I think there are a lot of people who are ready to see a different looking forward line.
It's a bit like I kind of and roll with me on this one, all right? Because you might be a bit confused as to my reference, but
okay, here we go.
It's a bit like Kitchen Nightmares, where Gordon comes in and the restaurant's just in disarray. You know, the food's coming out late, the establishment's shocking, and the problem is that the owner can't make a tough call and step down. And I'm not saying that Brad should step down, but he's committed himself to this strategy of Wiedemann and he just needs to give it up. He really does. He needs to say that not everything's going to pan out the way that I've wanted it to, and I admit that. And Sam, you've got to have a rest, son. It's a failed ideology and I'm sorry. Yeah. It's not working.
I liked that. Are we one of those restaurants on Kitchen Nightmares that has like a menu that has like 400 items on it? And
way too many.
Yeah, and they're just like, it's like, who orders this stuff?
And there's been like moldy like scallops hanging out in the refrigerator for a really long time.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've got to clear out the fridge.
We've got to clear out the fridge. There we go. Don't mind that. Next one's from Rizza. Thanks, Rizza.
Good evening, fellas. Riz here. I'll try to keep this as clean as possible, but what an absolutely putrid performance. Shocking. After putting on such a strong performance last week against Adelaide, now to this, letting Geelong do the exact same thing they did to us earlier in the year, just makes you sad to be a Bombers fan. At least Hawkins didn't kick 8. 5 so far. What a joke.
5 so far. So obviously you're still watching the game as he was sending that through, old Riz. I wish Hawkins kicked 6 though. Would have won some money. But anyway.
13 out of how many? 46 or 7 goals this year that he's kicked has been against us. Yeah. That's a big haul. When you think of the percentages there and you average that out, that would be like, what's that? Almost 20% of his goals or something that he's kicked against one team.
Yeah.
And he's second or third in the Coleman.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Pretty crazy.
It's crazy. I don't know, mate.
It's disgusting.
Maybe this is just the karma of those years in like the early 2000s where Lloyd would just consistently kick bags of 8 or 10 on crap teams and we'd live it up. But yeah, it's a long cry from that. So, next one is from Waldo. Thank you, Waldo.
What do you even fucking say? What do you even say about that? I've got nothing. Whether you play this or not, on the potty, it's fucking probably sums up the game more than anyone. There's just no word to say in that game. Look, if we make finals, I bet you'll be versus them and we're going to lose, and then we're going to get a lot more shit about not winning a final, and that's how it is going to be. I'm not even going to single out any players because, they all did what they did. But yeah, fuck. I've got as much to say as everyone else does. Nothing. Fucking nothing.
Waldo sounds flat.
That is almost the most nothing, but a whole lot of words. He probably wasn't one of the longest hot takes we've had of just him saying, I've got nothing to say.
Yeah.
So thanks, Waldo.
Yeah.
But I do agree, it will be grim if we verse them in finals. But, you know, you got to have some hope. I just feel like we can bloody stick it to them in finals.
Yeah.
You got to have some hope.
Yeah. Look, I envy you. I envy and also thank you for having any sort of positivity, Jesse, because I've had zero today.
Fine. We've had a good year.
We have had a good year.
We've had a good year.
We have had a good year.
We've pushed really good teams.
Yeah.
We've got Geelong when they've injected some fucking peptides or something into them before both games. Because seriously, they were freakish against us both games. They would play if they played against us like against Collingwood or any good team, they would have smashed them as well.
Definitely.
And I guess they say, you only let a team play as well as you let them play or something along those lines. But I do have to say, for them to be able to play at that level again against us 3 times in a row, the law of averages would say that it's unlikely.
They'll do it again.
No.
And we'll get
They will not do it again.
Yeah. Oh, I hope so. Robbie B. Thanks, Robbie B.
Yeah, very, very poor game from the boys tonight. It was definitely a massive struggle to watch especially from the quality of the likes of Mick Martin, Ben Hobbs, Andrew McGrath, who've all been playing fairly decent as of recently. Their ball use tonight was just not up to standard. I guess from a more positive side of things, I thought Nick Bryan had a fairly decent game as the ruck, especially the experience he was going up against. And I'd like to shout out to Dyson Heppel, who's actually been pretty solid all season. Tonight, he was probably out there one of our better players. Did what he had to do, did his job. So that's all I can say. Cheers, guys.
Yeah, he makes a good point. There were stretches in that game where Heps was probably one of the few guys who was, getting third man up, getting a spoil in, actually kind of making a bit of a contest.
He's had a great month.
Yeah, he has. No, he really hasn't. He was obviously trying to be the steady head for the back line when it was all going pear-shaped and some of the other guys around him. But, sometimes one man is enough to stop the avalanche.
I don't know if there would be many forward pockets averaging over this month or in general. Like he would be averaging maybe low 20s disposals as back pocket.
Back pocket. I was like, forward pocket? What are you talking about? Is he a half back or a back pocket? I don't even know. I mean, it's all the same.
They kind of interchange, but yeah, he's definitely getting a lot of footy.
He's playing. No, look, he's had a really good, 6 weeks to be honest, and I had written him off and had sent him off to the retirement home.
Oh, he was
earlier
on the cross
in the season
with Jesus of Nazareth with me at the beginning of the year.
Yeah,
so he survived.
Yes, he did survive, but. He's been pretty good. A few more. Let's get through them. This one's from Perennially Depressed. Thank you.
Look, I think there's one key learning from tonight. We're still shit.
There had to be one.
We haven't. It's been a while. I think I needed just a few people yelling "we're shit" in my.
Where's the OG? Get the OG up.
Enver Biss. Can I find it? Is it?
Get the original.
Oh, here it is. I've actually got it here. How good's this? Here we go.
We're shit.
He sounds so sauced.
He does sound.
He sounds so tinned.
He does sound sauced. Have you heard that before, Derek? That's the first time you've heard that one. So this was one of our best hot takes of last season.
Yeah.
I can't remember what game it was after. We got thumped by someone.
Oh yeah.
And
there's a lot of teams that thumped us last year.
This one got sent through by someone who's clearly maggot. And because you can hear, if you listen close, you can hear the pub in the background, and then he comes in let's play it again. It's been a while.
We're shit.
It sounds like he's drowning on his own words.
It does a little bit.
It's hilarious.
It does a little bit. All right, two to go. This one's from Ethan. Thank you, Ethan.
Look, I am wanting Sam Winderman to be dropped at the whole Bronx or hysterical cheering of him last night when he got a touch or a mark of the ball at the game. I thought was almost quite pathetic. I like to think that Essendon supporters are somewhat civilised in the occasion, but fuck, when we just do stupid shit like that, or even making him delete his Instagram account, probably actually the death threats and all that, it's just fucking stupid. Come on, we're not worse than Carlton or Collingwood fans here, but yeah. Shit loss, boys. I mean, we're never going to beat Geelong down at the Cattery, but fuck, when you put in that first quarter effort, let alone the game, 25 to 64 inside 50s, yeah, it's just bad. But I don't know. We've got the Dogs next Friday. Let's move on to them and get the win. Go Plains.
That's a good point, Ethan.
Really good point.
Like,
it's disappointing.
I mean, like, look, not every single person's going to obviously hear this, but Bronx cheers is one thing, and look, I've definitely given a Bronx cheer or two.
You're a Bronx cheerer.
I did for Treebeard. I think it needed to happen, to be honest. But one thing I like, we criticize people on this podcast. We hang a lot of shit, but this is where we keep it. Going out and like personally messaging players about bad performances or you've lost a bet or whatever the fuck it is not acceptable. Yeah. Like, that's the thing. Like, they're not going to come here to this space when things are bad because they just know what they're going to hear. Not that a player would ever listen to this. I don't know why you would. But this is the confined space. But going out and seeking people out to like abuse them and like, obviously when a player's down in form, they're going to like go on the Instagram, whatever. And that like, you play AFL football, you probably follow football pages. You're going to see stuff, not just from fans, but also from the media who are like, this player's out of form. So that's probably another reason why a player would, delete their social media. But I mean, I'd like to think most of our listeners don't do that.
But also, clearly he's lacking confidence and that's his key, at the end of the day, Achilles heel. And how do you think, obviously everyone wants Sam to perform.
Yeah, of course.
So why would you do the exact thing that's going to make him perform worse? It is illogical. It makes no sense. So for people out there that don't understand what he's dealing with, hear this now. He has confidence issues. So if you heckle him, all that's going to do is make him perform worse. So back him in. We're called supporters for a reason. Support your team, get around them, and give him a tap on the shoulder. If you see him in the street, tell him that you believe in him. Don't get around to him. This bloke deleted Instagram. He's clearly suffering from mental health issues, and he clearly has for a really long time. Put yourself in his situation and just, take a long, hard look at yourself because it's just not acceptable behaviour. And as you can tell, I don't really stand for it. So
yeah, I mean, look, I'm sure there'll probably plenty of Geelong supporters who would follow the media and know he's out of form, and they may have been some of the people, give him the Bronx cheers. But yeah, like I said, personally messaging players to let them know how you feel with their way they play. Like, come on, If you're filthy, send in a hot take.
Yes.
And I'll play it here. It's a confined space.
Correct.
I don't run these little clips as hearts on social media. People have to come here to listen to this. And no player in their right mind would listen to this podcast. Absolutely no chance. No player in their right mind would do that. So,
to all you wrong-minded fellas.
Yeah.
G'day.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening.
Anyway, last one, our dear friend Lurker. Thank you, Lurk.
Brutally beaten, fearfully flogged, mercilessly massacred, simply slaughtered, deeply disappointing. Finals a fantasy, immediate improvement imperative. Bounce back, Bombers.
Bit of passion in that one.
Love it.
Bit of passion.
I reckon we'll bounce back.
Yeah, I hope we will.
Dogs are trash.
It's made Friday very, very interesting because they are just, they're the ultimate tease. Every time you think they're going to be good, they're not. Every time you think they're going to become a top 4 side, they're not. And that's just sort of where they've kind of been. And I know they're in a grand final.
Because they've got that angry Oompa Loompa, the bodybuilding Oompa Loompa in the chair. Bevo,
yeah. And yeah, like in a way, like having a belting like that sometimes can be the little fire in the belly that teams need to get to go, because we always speak about it on this show that after a very good win and a week of media hype, we're like, oh God, it's coming. It's coming. And then we have a bad game.
It's always the case.
We just don't go well with too much positivity. So, yeah, I reckon there would have been a few stern words, post-match, and they'll continue to be this week. But yeah, he is hoping that we have a real good game on Friday night, because it means we can move on and forget about this little incident that occurred.
Yeah, it'll be in the past.
Yep.
Very quickly.
Yep. All right, let's take a break. We'll come back with the great man Paul Cousins for the VFL wrap after this. Welcome back, everybody. It's time for the VFL wrap with our great friend Paul Cousins. Hello, Paul.
Hello, boys. I'm the positive one. I like it. I'm the positive
About time.
one this
Yeah.
week.
About time.
Yeah.
Yes, it is a bit. Normally the roles have been reversed this season, but I'm feeling good on a Monday. I'm not really, because I had to watch the AFL as well, and the VFLW girls got done, so it was a bit of a rough weekend. But thankfully, we were able to finish it on a bit of a positive note.
Yeah, good to celebrate something, right?
Yeah, and it was
Absolutely.
It was a thrilling win down there in Geelong, Paul, and it's pretty hard for any team to win Geelong at either level, but a great result for the VFL.
Yeah, it was. I was trying to think back. I'm pretty sure it's my 9th year involved, and I'm pretty sure that was my first win down there.
Wow.
So it tells you it's a pretty hard place to win. They've been a very, very good footy club at all levels for a very long time, and VFL's been no exception to that. So, they're probably struggling a little bit this year compared to how they've been in recent times at VFL level, but they're still a very good, very well coached and organised side who play what is a very unique home ground very well. I think I used the word very about 17 times then, so I'll find something else for the next sentence. But yeah, it was a cracking game of footy. It was both teams really going at each other. Guys were coming off the ground pretty blown up because it was, it was extremely physical, extremely fast, and really high pace, sort of high octane game of footy. So it was good to watch, and even better because the good guys won.
Are we thinking of giving Johnny Jurgensen an AFL contract? Because every time I've seen him play, I've really liked what I've seen, and I think at the moment there's a spot available in the AFL team at the moment. What are your thoughts on Johnny?
The big Jorgo, he had a ripping day yesterday. He's had a couple of really impressive games, actually. He's an interesting footballer. He was one of... Yeah, he is. He's a big skinny bloke, but he's aggressive and uses what little weight he has pretty well. He's got a really good set of hands, a lovely kick at the footy too, reads the game well, and has probably come from the clouds a little bit for us this year. He was a bit of a late addition to the list, and I think initially was only a train-on spot too. He didn't actually have a full list spot with us, and that through some really good performances through the pre-season for us, and got his chance and has grabbed it with both hands and ended up playing a lot of footy for us. And it was one of our best yesterday for sure. So if you, if you're in his position, and you're right, there's probably, there's probably a fair few eyes from our recruiting department looking for guys in that sort of position and that sort of mould. So he's putting himself in front of them, that's for sure.
Love to hear that. Now, Paul, we seem to talk about it every single week, and he's banging down the door for AFL selection, young Elijah Sardis, and just looks like he keeps doing what he needs to do to get his way into the team. And maybe after a big loss like the seniors had, we might see him get the call up.
Yeah, you never know, do you? You're right. He's certainly doing everything he can to get a spot. Whether the selectors feel he's ready or that there's a natural spot for him there to play, I guess is the question. He's obviously been playing inside mid for us. He spent a little bit of time forward as well, but largely in and around the pill. And he came out with sort of Sharon tattooed on the inside of his right hand after the weekend, that's for sure. So, I think he had over 30 and had, I think, double-figure clearances, and he finds the footy extremely well. His movement is absolutely elite. We've talked before about he's probably the thing he'll continue to work on, no doubt, is that sort of ball use by foot a little bit at times can get away with him, but he also plays in a really high-pressure sort of position and is often sort of breaking away from numbers and stuff as well. So, he's very impressive and doing absolutely everything right. So if the coaches and those picking the team decided that he was to get a go, I don't think there'd be any complaints from anyone, that's for sure.
So what are we going to do here, Paul? You and I, we love this man. And do we need to go to Scotty's house, like buy him a bottle of wine, sit him down? But Kane Baldwin, arguably the best game he's played for the club. I think he was sublime yesterday. There was that one play where he took the mark and then played on and kept the ball inside the boundary line and ran around 3 players and then delivered it to a player that just, I don't know. I loved every minute of the game that he played yesterday. I think, as I said, arguably BOG. What do we need to do to get him into the AFL, Paul? Talk to me.
I had a funny feeling I knew who you were talking about when you started there before you said his name, because I am equally as big a rap for Balders as you are. I continue to just be incredibly impressed with him. He did all that yesterday after having to come off and get an ankle re-strapped because he rolled an ankle really early in the game as well. So, he did it under a little bit of duress and it would have been difficult for him to be more impressive. They had some very good players playing, some very good forwards as well, and some of their ball use was terrific, and he was able to still intercept and get on the end of it. He defended really well. I've mentioned before on the show that he's an elite field kick. I think it's something that goes under the radar a bit. But his field kicking, he might not have had his best kicking day yesterday. At times, he still was very good with it, but he's an absolutely elite field kick. He takes the kick on. He's not someone who has high efficiency numbers because he goes 15 metres sideways and safe. Like, he takes kicks on, he bites them off through the corridor and on the 45 and is very impressive in everything he does. So he's a guy with a big future, I think. Hopefully that future's not too far away in the AFL side. But again, as we spoke about with Elijah, he couldn't be doing a lot more to put his hand up. Baldwin, he's been super.
And Massimo D'Ambrosio, Paul, he's been in the VFL for a few weeks now. Have you seen his stretch over the last few games?
He's been really good, Mass. He got a huge corky last game really early. Not yesterday, but the week or 2 weeks before we had the bye in between. But he picked up a huge corky in that, which really restricted him on that day. And to the point where it was just incredibly gutsy that he sort of stuck it out and made us, was able to keep our numbers up and meant we didn't go down a rotation because he was able to play through a fair bit of pain, but it really restricted what he was able to do in that game against Gold Coast. But he was back moving freely again yesterday and found a heap of the footy, used it very well again as he does. And I thought he was actually really good defensively too, one-on-one. At times he had, some difficult opponents, and as I said, they were a good side. Yeah, they had a good side in yesterday, the Cats, and had some sort of nippy forward types, and he was able to keep up with them and really work hard offensively for us as well. So I'm a big fan of Mass. So he's a really good player, and his ball use. I'm sort of sounding like I was with Balders as well, but his ball use is fantastic. And
you got love hearts in your eyes. I'm picturing it right now.
You know what? As much as it sounds overly simple, I love blokes who can kick the footy.
Yeah,
it's easily the most underrated thing in footy.
Do you know why, Paul? Because there's no one that has really come through the football club for 25 years who can kick a football. So that's probably why you're so happy to see them.
It's certainly a skill that has, for some reason, taken on less importance in footy over the last, to a lot of people anyway, over the last, over modern times. And yet every time you see a team win a flag, they've got absolutely elite kicks of the footy. I'll never understand how it gets so underrated. It does. So when I see blokes come through who are elite kicks of the footy, they immediately become my favourites. Both those blokes we're talking about are, Mass's leg is ridiculous. There was one play yesterday where he picked it up and essentially off one step, turned 90 degrees left mid-kick and hit a bloke about 55 metres away, and it went about 2 metres off the ground the whole way. Like some of the things he can do off his left leg in particular is, incredibly impressive. And I think the more that AFL footy becomes a zoned-off sport, as it has been over the last however long, where teams are setting up the ground so well and team defences we saw Saturday night in the AFL, like, if a side can set up the ground really well, they're almost impossible to beat unless you can use the footy in an elite manner to kick through and over their defensive lines. And I think as the game continues to evolve, I think kicking is going to become much more back in vogue. Guys like Mass and Balders, and they just become invaluable in the game for what they can do with their leg. And, it's, as I said, it never ceases to amaze me how many guys come into the AFL who are poor kicks of the footy, A, and B, how undervalued great kicking skills can be at times.
Speaking of great kicking skills, our friend who we haven't spoken about for a little while, Alistair Lord, iced the game with a beautiful kick. Can you tell us a little bit more just generally as to sort of where you see he is at with his development? Again, it hasn't really been a name that's been mentioned for most of the year. Drafted him, was it 1 or 2 years ago?
2, I think. Yeah.
2 years ago, yeah. So,
it's his second season. Yeah.
Yeah, so what's the go with him? How's he going, tracking along?
I've actually really liked his year. He is someone who people don't tend to talk about, Lordy, but I actually think he's developing really well. From where he was when he came into the club, he's probably pretty sort of quiet type and doesn't get talked about a lot and just goes about his business, without sort of too many headlines or much fanfare. But I think he's played some really good footy for us this year, and I was rapt for him to kick the goal yesterday. I was on the bench and we went absolutely ape. If you were watching the broadcast, I think everyone cheering was pretty much us. When he kicked it, we were making a bit of noise on the bench. But and of course, I went straight to him after the game and said, with the winner or something. He said, "Oh, it wasn't the game," but he's trying to play it down immediately because that's his personality type, is the quiet type. But he played well, and it was good reward for a kid who's been working pretty hard this year to slot one and get the group hugs and have a really nice moment. So it was good, and he's come along quietly, but I think he's developing really well this year.
Good to hear. Good to hear. And do you just want to clarify, Paul? Nick Cox came off halfway through the game. Is it the understanding that was as a precautionary for potential AFL, or is there an injury that we may not be aware of?
No injury. No, it's purely 5-day break. So both teams have got a 5-day break. Unfortunately, in the VFL we clash with the AFL as well on Friday night. So so both VFL and AFL have got a 5-day break, and it's entirely possible he's being looked at for the AFL. I'm not sure, but both teams have got a 5-day break, and given he's, not long back off a pretty long injury layoff, I think it was probably just a bit of management more than anything. But he certainly wasn't injured, and would have happily gone on for the whole game if he wasn't sort of given a tap on the shoulder.
Good, great to hear.
I put this to Rob before. Let's say Laverty doesn't get up this week. The obvious inclusion for me would be having Baldwin step in. I'd be fairly disappointed if they chose Cox to step into that role over Baldwin. What's your take, though, on having that situation when Laverty comes out, Baldwin comes in, Wiedemann goes out, and you play Nick Cox centre half forward?
Interesting. Few pieces moving on the board there, but
bit of change.
Look, I try not to comment too much on potential moves, but Coxie has largely been playing. Like he's spent some time back, he spent a little bit of time forward, but the last few weeks he's been mainly up and around the wing for us. He folds back really well, and he pushes forward as well, as we saw. I think he kicked our first goal on the weekend from the goal line, like he was pushing a fair way forward. But he hasn't sort of been playing that key position type of role for us. When he's sort of played back, he's played more as your kind of traditional third back, I guess, almost. Like you're sort of intercepting kind of role. And when he's been forward, again, it's been more of that high sort of half forward type role rather than a traditional sort of back to the goal centre forward type. So, he'd certainly be in the frame. He'd certainly be in discussion. He's had, I thought he was terrific against Gold Coast a couple of weeks ago, and I thought that was his best game back for sure for us. So he'd be being talked about, but whether whether it was in like he's a very tall guy, but obviously hasn't played AFL footy for a fair while, and and isn't naturally the sort of the big unit, like the big strong unit. So whether they were thinking about him for a key position role, I'd be surprised, but I certainly wouldn't be surprised if they were thinking about playing.
Well, size isn't everything because I'll tell you this: one of our
you're telling me, yeah,
one of our unnamed forwards at the moment looks very large, but I feel like a tumbleweed could blow them over at the moment. So, anyway,
that's a no comment from me.
Yeah. I'm just putting it out there.
Oh,
yeah.
That's to answer your question though, Jesse. It does sound like Paul said no. So
that does sound like it.
That sounds like a no. Essendon VFL playing Williamstown this Friday, 7:05 p.m. Very annoying that he's clashing directly with the AFL. But if you live in Willie and you're not heading to Marvel Stadium, you should get on down and cheer on the VFL boys.
Absolutely. I'll be there, and hopefully we see a few about. It's always it's always windy and cold, but I don't mind that. But it's always a great place to watch footy down there, I reckon, at Willie. And so, I'm looking forward to it. They've been going okay too, so it'd be a good challenge for us. And we'll run into a few ex-Bombers down there with them. So look forward to the matchup. Speaking of Willie, by the way, just while I've got you, that reminds me that I wanted to give a shout out to, not that he'll be listening, he might, avid listener. Kean McBride, I thought was sensational for us yesterday.
Yeah, he did look good.
I say Willie because that won't make any sense. Willie, his nickname with the players is Willie. So, okay. But he was outstanding. I had him best on for us. So I thought he was unbelievable. His defensive work, his one-on-ones. He saved our bacon on many, many occasions. Just
it looks
with
like he's growing
outstanding,
really
sort
well.
of aggressive defensive play. Yeah, he's a huge kid. Like he's massive. And he had a really quiet first half of the year coming off injury. Like he essentially, I think his first full session was our last practice match rather. So he missed the entire preseason and struggled a bit early in the year and was pretty quiet, but he was absolutely sensational yesterday, and probably again a guy who doesn't get a lot of plaudits, and it flies under the radar, but I thought he was sensational both when he was back, and also he went and gave us a chop out in the ruck for a while and just competed brilliantly all day. He was outstanding.
No, get him in. Get him in.
Just it's nice when a guy like that plays really well. I think it's nice to give them a
for sure. On you,
They
Willie.
don't get a whole lot of plaudits, and everyone talks about the usual suspects, but without guys like that, we don't win yesterday. So I thought he was really good.
Well said, Paul. Well said. We'll speak to you again next Monday, and hopefully the good form of the VFL can continue. But until then, have a great week.
No worries, boys. You too.
Thanks, Paulie.
Thanks, Paul.
Cheers.
There we go, mate. All the lowdown from the VFL. Doesn't sound like Coxie's going to be playing centre forward, but does sound like he could be a chance of making his way into
on the wing.
Side.
On the wing, he was saying.
Potentially.
They've got him back there.
Yeah, I mean,
who's he taking?
Like,
he's not taking either Martin or Durham's spot.
I mean, he may be Durham. I mean, if I'm going to pick of the two, I would say maybe Durham.
No, surely not. Durham is such a competitor.
He is.
It's chalk and cheese between
Yeah.
like Fairy Floss Cox on the wing
Very floss Cox.
and Durham, who just eats nails for breakfast.
Yeah, they're very, very different type of players. But who knows what they're thinking? Who knows what they're thinking? Yeah, like I'm fascinated like he's such an interesting player, Nick Cox. I'm fascinated to see what we do with him because, he is a great marking option when you're that height.
Yeah.
Good to kick to in a one-on-one. And
It's true.
it's been a long, long time since he's run at the AFL. So
I do remember him once taking a mark on Lockie Hunter, which was pretty hilarious
Yeah.
because Lockie Hunter's like as tall as his shin bone.
yeah,
That was nice.
yeah. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know if obviously if someone's sore or someone's injured or suspended, there's a potential to bring someone in, but. Yeah, generally don't know what we do with old Coxie. So
We'll see.
We'll see. Let's wrap up the show there. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Thank you, all our premium members. Thank you to people on YouTube. Thank you to everyone. Well done for getting it through this show. I'm sure you didn't want to listen to this as much as I didn't want to do this podcast this week, but that's what happens after a loss like that. We're all just a bit flat. We're a little bit flat. If you want to listen to Thursday's show, you can sign up to become a premium member.
Do it.
$4.99 a month.
$49.9.
I think it's $42 the year. You get an extra show every single week during the season, and extra content in the off season as well.
Wow.
Working on some stuff right now, which is pretty good. Thank you to the lovely people who write for the website who are helping me put that stuff together. Shout out to those fabulous gentlemen. AFLW is on the horizon. They put out the schedule this week, which is awesome to see, which means the AFLW gang going to be back soon. What else have I got? I don't know. Have a good week. Hopefully we smash the Dogs because, this has been shit this week.
Can't lose to the Cats and Dogs.
Yeah, we can't lose to Cats and Dogs.
We cannot lose to them. We're a bloody plane, mate, in the sky.
Exactly.
Bombing things.
Exactly. The Bombers come in and we just carpet bomb the habitat.
And I also think mosquitoes beat cats and dogs as well.
Exactly.
So
malaria is a serious disease.
We've got both.
Malaria
legs
is a
up.
serious disease.
Yeah.
It's very, very serious.
Yeah.
We shouldn't joke about it.
No.
But I am.
You are.
But I am right now.
Mm-hmm. I wonder if anyone's still listening right now.
Yeah, I don't know. I always one of these questions. Thanks, everyone. Go the Mighty Bombers. We'll see you next week.
Go the Dons.
Or Thursday. Bye.